Hey everyone, and welcome. So we've all been there, right? You just finished a really tough study session, and the first thing you do is grab your phone to reward yourself with a quick scroll. But what if that reward, that little break, is actually erasing all the hard work you just put in? Well, today we're going to dive into the surprising science of why your 5-minute break might be the worst thing you can do for your memory.
So let's just ask this question right up front. Have you ever crammed for hours, felt like you totally nailed the material, but then the next day, poof, it's just gone? It is so frustrating, and it happens to all of us. But it turns out the answer might not be in how you study, but in what you do in those few minutes right after you close the book.
And this is the core problem, this weird paradox we're all caught in. We think that scrolling on social media is a mental break, a way to unwind. But to your brain, it's the exact opposite. You're actually committing a little act of cognitive sabotage, and it's actively stopping your brain from saving the very information you just tried so hard to learn.
Okay, let's get into the science of this, because here's the thing. Learning doesn't stop when you stop studying, not even close. In fact, you could argue that the few minutes after a study session are the most critical moments for actually remembering anything in the long run. And the key process here has a name. It's called memory consolidation. Think of it like this. When you first learn something, that information is like an unsaved Word doc. It's fragile, it's temporary, and if the power goes out, it's gone forever. Consolidation is your brain's automatic background save process. It's the essential step that takes that fragile, new info and converts it into a stable, long-term memory that you can actually find and use later.
So look at this slide. This is where it all becomes so clear. For that save process to work, your brain needs one thing: quiet. It needs less stuff coming in so it can process what's already there. It needs to replay the new material. But what do we give it on a social media break? The complete opposite. Constant new photos, videos, posts to read. It's like trying to save your work while someone is just mashing the keyboard. And there's a name for this clash. It's called interference.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This isn't just some abstract theory. A really fascinating study back in 2020 put this exact idea to the test, and the results, well, they were pretty eye-opening.
The experiment was actually super simple, but brilliant. They had people learn a list of new words. Then, they split them into two groups for an 8-minute break. Group A was told to just sit quietly with their eyes closed. They called this wakeful resting. It's not sleeping, it's just letting your mind wander and giving your brain the downtime it needs. And Group D? Well, they were told to do what most of us would do: scroll through Facebook and Instagram.
And boom, the results were immediate and obvious. The group that scrolled social media forgot way more of the words they had just learned compared to the group that just rested. That social media feed was literally interfering with their brain's ability to save the information, causing real, measurable memory loss. But here's the real kicker. You might think, okay, so what? I'll just sleep on it and it'll come back. Nope. The researchers tested everyone again 24 hours later, and the memory loss was still there. Even a full night's sleep couldn't fix the damage done by that 8-minute distraction. The information that was lost due to interference, it was just gone.
I mean, listen to the study's conclusion itself. The scientists are not mincing words here. They say social media usage had detrimental effects on memory, and that learners should, and this is a direct quote, opt for wakeful resting over social media usage. It doesn't get much clearer than that.
Okay, so if scrolling is out, what are we supposed to do? Just stare at a wall? Well, no. The good news is science also gives us a whole toolkit of smarter, way more effective strategies for both studying and for taking breaks that actually help. So let's get into the solutions.
All right, first up is a classic, the Pomodoro technique. Fun fact, it was invented by a student who used a tomato-shaped kitchen timer, Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, to break up his work. And it's so brilliant because it forces you to do two things: focus intensely for 25 minutes and then take a real, restorative break. It builds that essential non-interference downtime right into your workflow.
Technique number 2 is active recall. And honestly, this is a total game changer. See, most of us study by passively rereading our notes over and over. Active recall is the exact opposite. It's the act of closing the book and forcing your brain to pull out the information. Quizzing yourself, using flashcards, explaining a concept to a friend. That active retrieval is what builds strong memories that are way easier for your brain to consolidate later. And that leads us perfectly to our third tool, spaced repetition. Our brains are designed to forget things over time. It's called the forgetting curve. Well, spaced repetition is a way to hack that process. By reviewing material just as you're about to forget it, maybe after a day, then 3 days, then a week, you keep telling your brain, hey, this stuff is important, don't delete it. Each time you do that, you make the memory stronger and much harder to forget.
So we've got these different techniques, but how do we actually combine them all into a new study routine that works for us? One that doesn't feel like a total drag. It really just comes down to being intentional with your focus time and your rest time.
So, a smarter schedule looks a little different. Instead of just vaguely blocking out study time, you plan your focused Pomodoro sessions, and you actually schedule your breaks, deciding ahead of time to use them for a short walk, some stretching, or just closing your eyes for that all-important wakeful rest. You build active recall and spaced repetition right into your review time. It becomes a whole system that's built around how your brain actually works.
And this is so much bigger than just getting better grades. The constant flood of information from our digital lives is a huge source of burnout and anxiety for so many of us. Learning to manage your attention, to take intentional breaks, it's really an act of self-care. It's about taking back a little bit of control and reducing that feeling of being constantly overwhelmed. So we'll end on this thought. In a few moments, you're going to take a break from this. The question is, what kind of break is it going to be? Are you going to reach for your phone and create a bunch of interference for your brain? Are you going to give it the quiet space it needs to actually process and remember what you just learned? The choice, as they say, is yours.